Hi everybody.
Chief Dental Officer. I honestly didn't.
This is Vernon Coleman. Absolutely brilliant guy. Love his channel. It's people like him who've kept people like me sane this last few months. Because, you know, there's a lot of us who are aware of reality. We're aware of the facts of this coronavirus situation. We're aware of the way that it's been exploited. That this financial collapse was coming. Everybody knew that it was coming. It was actually 2 years overdue. That this pandemic has been planned. That there is an agenda that was cited, established at Davos in 2017 or 2018 to call the elderly, the sick and the elderly, to call them, because apparently they're a threat to the global economy. We have witnessed a coalition, New World Order production being rolled out across our planet. Now, thank goodness to Africa that they've stood firm and strong and told this coalition, basically, go away, okay? The vast majority of Africa and other countries have stood strong, and they've been attacked, they've been judged, absolutely, because they've stood up and said no. And what has happened in Britain? They keep telling us that 60,000 people nearly have died through the coronavirus. Okay, they haven't. It is a lie. That is fraud. That's the fact of it. There's no arguing about it. It's a fact. Just because the BBC and the rest of the mainstream media and government are saying the opposite of that does not make the fact a lie. They are lying to us. They are lying to us for a reason. They've got you queuing up for your food all spaced out. Exactly how martial law will operate. Because they want to see people's faces. They don't want people getting together to have a chat and a talk and discuss things. They want us all scared. Fear debilitates cognition. This new flu virus, COVID-19, you know, I'm going to go with it and say, all right then, it actually exists. And only because I personally have had a very strange flu in November, as did a few of my friends and my neighbour's family. And out of all of us that were infected by that, one person, an asthma sufferer, ended up in hospital with pneumonia, as he's been at risk from every flu. Any flu can cause pneumonia. So whether or not he had COVID-19 or any flu, we don't know. Because at that time, nobody had even mentioned COVID-19. The truth is that the vast majority of the population, 80% of us, are going to barely be affected by it. Every year, thousands of people in Britain catch flu. Every year, on average, 20,000 people die of flu. In bad years, nearly 50,000. That's excess deaths on top of all the usual winter deaths. Okay? In Britain, tens of thousands of people die every year. That's just what happens. That's life. Tens of thousands of babies are born every year. Tens and tens of thousands of people die every year. Now, if you're going to start counting every single person that dies and stamping COVID-19 on the death certificate, as has been happening, and we know it for a fact that is what has been happening. If you've got a government that in its own bill, okay, an act of parliament has stated that legally the word coronavirus now means COVID-19, which is an outright lie. It's an act of fraud. It's a lie, because coronavirus does not mean COVID-19. But that is the directive that the hospitals and the doctors have been told to follow, that even if they're not even testing half of these people, that they're stamping COVID-19 on the death certificate. If they've showed any signs of a cold or flu, or if they've tested positive for any coronavirus, it's COVID-19, because the government has stated that coronavirus now means COVID-19 in their Act of Parliament, and given themselves all kinds of powers on the strength of it. And here is Mr. Vernon Coleman, God bless him, explaining to people about, you know, stuff like dentists being closed. I mean, how dare they close dentists? Oh, that saved a pretty packet for the government, hasn't it? To spend on Bill Gates, to give the WHO, World Health Organisation, 104 million. You know, out of all the countries, Britain gave the most to the World Health Organisation for this vaccine that probably half the Tories have got investments in. Oh, we're not going to force you to have the vaccine, they say. Oh, but you won't be able to travel, you know. You won't be able to eat out. You won't be able to do this. You won't be able to do that. You know, where's your vaccine passport? And we know that this was being developed in the EU from 2018. They had a whole meeting to discuss vaccination passports. I'll leave you all the links, because everything I'm saying here to you is a fact, and the BBC is lying. And so are most of the mainstream media, and the ones of them who are telling the truth, well, you know, they're also promoting far-right fascism along with it, aren't they? Because apparently people who are asking questions are all Trump supporters. It is outrageous. They've murdered thousands of elderly people. They've denied people healthcare. Now, yesterday I was having a conversation with a mother, okay. Her adult daughter had been sent home from hospital in Wales, okay, with acute appendicitis. She said also at the same time there were two elderly ladies that had been actually refused dialysis. She was about to be sent home in an Uber. Her mum went to collect her and sat with her. She says she's been beside herself with worry. She's now got to wait a few weeks to get an operation. Acute appendicitis. Apparently they weren't allowed to treat her. She could have died. And if she died, what would be stamped on her death certificate? COVID-19. I'm sorry, I've got no sympathy for whatever, for all you people out there with your masks on. I mean, it is so bloody stupid. Everybody knows, right, surgeons wear masks so to avoid fluid, spittle, whatever, dropping into gaping wounds that they're operating on. Masks cannot stop a germ or a virus. They just can't, okay? You know, go and have a look at the average wire fence outside. Is it going to stop mosquitoes and flies coming through it? But when you're talking about a virus, you know, it isn't even equivalent to a wire fence. It is equivalent to bars. It's completely crazy. This idea that a mask is going to stop a virus from spreading. It's actually making things worse, because apparently you're not supposed to touch your face with this virus. Okay. But what are people doing with masks? Constantly touching their face. Which leaves people open to any flu virus that's going around, but which nonetheless will be recorded as COVID-19. and for which the vast majority of people will not need any treatment for and will not receive any treatment for. And if the elderly, get actually shifted out of hospital to go and infect residents of nursing homes. And people aren't outraged about that. People aren't outraged about people left suffering with things like abscesses, having to go to the doctor, having to phone the doctor up for antibiotics. Because it's... What can I say? I have got no sympathy, right? And I've actually seen today that, one minister, is it a Scottish minister, telling people to stare at people who aren't wearing a mask. Stare them out, he says. People who aren't wearing a mask. I mean, talk about a blatant attempt to create social hostility. They want us all fighting with each other about who's wearing a mask and who isn't wearing a mask and who's not obeying social distances order. Quick, says the BBC, phone the police. You've seen your neighbours invite somebody into their house. Phone the police. How outrageous! And I am disgusted. I'm sorry, I am disgusted to witness the whole nation has gone along with this absolute crazy insanity, all on the strength of the mainstream media, basically. Because, Boris Johnson played the role of, I'm not calling a lockdown. Because let's face it, people, if Boris Johnson had called the lockdown, you would all be asking questions, wouldn't you? But, Boris Johnson says no, and then along come the friendly media, who we know care about us so much, don't they? They really keep us informed and on the ball and warn us about stuff like Brexit, about what a hard Brexit really means. The vast majority of people don't even know. I've seen them all over Facebook, Twitter, all over the social media. Oh, well, I'm not going to be buying American food after Brexit. It's like, don't you understand, people? It's going to be the only food available to you. You're not going to be able to buy anything from anywhere now. 168 trade deals with the EU have been thrown out the window. Any reasonable, sane government would have got us out of the EU after we'd got trade deals with other countries. But they haven't got any trade deal with any country. And a trade deal with America is going to take 5 years. So what do you think you're going to be living on for the next 5 years, people? Oh, well, lots of the rich have been stocking up, haven't they? Tesco, Sainsbury's, a lot of them. They've been stocking up, ready to sell you food at 4 times the price. When it becomes scarce, and all your other products that you buy, that you use, how do you think they come into this country? How do you think you're able to buy them? Because of the 168 trade deals we have with the EU. Through the EU. And we get them at a knockdown discount price. Because the EU is such a large market. So the EU, it's counted as a bulk market, our medicines. They're going to skyrocket from America. Go and have a look how much cost medicines are in America. 150 quid for an inhaler. I can't believe. I find it hard to believe that the vast majority of people in this country are that misinformed, are that gullible. How it is a crime to be that gullible in this world when you've got people like Vernon Coleman and so many reputable, professional, expert people. I mean, who am I? I'm just what? A member of the British public, a carer. But I'm experienced. I'm experienced in life. I'm a survivor of child abuse. It has made me, I've had to question. I've even had to question myself as part of my self-development from actually recovering from child abuse. In order to be able to speak, okay? in order to be able to speak without stammering, I had to go through, what, 15 sessions of hypnotherapy. How many years of counselling? And when you're exploring yourself, once you know yourself, you know who's with you and who's against you in this world. Once you've seen the lies and the fraud and the judgments that have been clouding your own consciousness and you kick them out, you recognise them when they're coming from others. Because you start noticing, you always look for motive and intent that's coming from a criminal government, a government that's committed perjury already. And all of this pandemic madness is about preparing and training the British public for what's to come after Brexit. And I tell you now, it is martial law. That is what they have planned for a hard Brexit. That they want, that nobody wanted in this country. That the people of Britain in that referendum were told repeatedly that there would be a deal. People like myself who were warning about the consequences of what we are exactly facing right now, all my worst concerns now confirmed fully. I was told that I was being a scaremongerer. Who's scaremongering the British public now? The BBC, the vast majority of the mainstream media, the government. Because, you know, once the government had decided that, oh yes, it is a deadly pandemic, which they keep talking about it like that. I've seen them on the media. Deadly, the deadly virus, the deadly this, the deadly that. My sister died of flu in 1964 at 18 months old. I've never heard the flu mentioned as deadly. The amount of people that, on average, between 250,000, and again this is a fact, between 250,000 and 600,000 people die of flu and the related illnesses every year, right? That's globally. We've had not even 250,000 or just around that figure died of this alleged COVID-19, because apparently there's been no other strain of flu going around. It's all COVID-19, and even with the bumped up figures. So, as a matter of fact, of lawful fact, there is not a pandemic of flu. The whole world has experienced actually a reduced number of flu deaths compared to peak years where over 600,000 die worldwide. This lockdown has murdered people, and this government has withdrawn healthcare from people in the guise of protecting us all from an allegedly deadly pandemic. And from there, talking about vaccinating us all, putting us all trace and tracker, vaccination passports, rolling out 5G, you name it. Oh, we're talking about universal income all of a sudden, and the new normal, the new abnormal. Well, I'm sorry, there's nothing normal about this criminal cabal who established themselves on the strength of packs of lies and blowing up the Twin Towers on 9/11 and blaming it on Muslims. We have the facts of evidence. The architects and engineers have proven that those towers were brought down and Building 7 by controlled demolition. And the people that are prepared to commit acts like that in order to give themselves, to cover up their financial crimes, to give themselves powers to kill and murder and maim people in the Middle East, to throw about depleted uranium all over the place, and even British ministers from the Ministry of Defence lying to British Parliament saying, no, they've been through the Geneva Weapons Review, and then 11 years later having to apologise. I will leave you all the links, and you will know, you check the links under this video and check the facts and get with the facts, people. Because I tell you now, our children's future is on the line, and we are not going to feed them into their Babylon machine. Because it is a beast, and they are beasts, and we've seen them fraternise with the beasts. We've seen them protect the beast, haven't we? The child traffickers, organised child sexual abusers, Satanists. They have been exposed. Now I believe the Dutch ex-banker, Ronald Bernard, I believe that man when he sits there and cries with tears in his eyes and talks about the upper echelons of who controls finance in this world. And how he was invited to participate in ritual child sacrifice in order to be an accepted member of the elite. And, you know, now apparently, Prince Andrew, he can't be extradited for his involvement in organised sexual abuse against trafficked children, which is a crime against humanity as identified by the United Nations. Okay, so Prince Andrew can't be extradited for crimes against humanity, for his being implicated in crimes against humanity. But Julian Assange, who exposes war crimes, okay, which is actually a lawful duty, he can be extradited. We've had enough. We're sick of it. We are sick of it. Julian Assange, release him now, right? If Prince Andrew is not going to face his charges in America, if he's not accountable to anybody on this planet for his involvement in lawful suspicion of his involvement with crimes against humanity, sorry, Assange gets released right now. We have had enough, okay? I am sick to death. You know, all the criticism, well, they shouldn't have pulled that statue down. You know, a statue of a guy who profited off slavery. I mean, murdering, I mean, literally, a mass murderer. I mean, I could not believe it. I didn't even know that a statue existed in Bristol. Or that there were statues like that anywhere, really. In Britain. Celebrating people who profited from slavery. I'm sorry, no. This is out of order. We are not going to bow down. You know this stuff, bend the knee. Do not bend the knee, people. We do not bend the knee to anybody, okay? Black, white, we unite and we stand up for our rights, as Robert Nesta Marley, God rest his soul, asked us to do. Stand up for your right. He did not say kneel for your right. You stand up, people, and stand up strong. The only people who will be kneeling in this world are the criminals of power who deserve to be on their knees begging for forgiveness. Now wake up, people. Listen to Vernon Coleman, right? You know, yeah, I know that I'm full of fire and passion because that is me, okay? And that's my right to be like that. Because for years as a child, I was not allowed to be angry. I was not allowed to cry. And I have liberated myself. So in that sense, yeah, I'm a dread, okay? And I'm allowed to be a dread. Because that is my survival in this world. And that's my battle scars make me a dread. And everybody like me, all the survivors, okay? Because you give us trouble. As Bob Marley said, you will get it double. So stand up for your rights, people. Stand up for your rights. Forget all this kneeling and all this stuff about people saying, anybody saying all lives matter, you're a racist. I'm sorry, no you're not. All lives do matter. And that's exactly the point of the Black Lives Matter movement. Because Black Lives Matter equally. That's the whole point of it. That we are all equal. Equal rights. Equal opportunity. equal access to justice, equal respect. Be aware of the narratives now that are going to do everything in their power to divide us. Everything. Whether it's between people who wear masks and people who don't wear masks, whether it's between black people and white people, you know, and they will actually do their best to use this movement, the black movement, they will do their best to turn it around so that, you know, it ends up creating more racism than it claims to be standing against. Rule equality. Be firm in your knowledge, because knowledge is power. You see, true facts and knowledge, that is power. And people who stand up for what is right on the strength of a solid foundation, that's the rock, okay? People standing on lies, people standing on myths, on misunderstanding, on spells, because everybody's had this huge spell cast over them by the mainstream media. You know, the BBC says get on your doorstep and clap and shows everybody clapping every week. Oh, everybody's out there clapping. People like me are asking people to get out on your doorstep on a Wednesday night at 7:30, clap and cheer and make a noise for your human rights and in honour of those who fought for them. And that includes everybody of every colour who fought for them. Through 2 world wars. Black and white together fought against Nazis, fought against fascism. And now these fascists are at our door. Oh, we're here to help you. We're going to make the world a lovely place. Who are they? Who are they? Every country has a right to its own independence and to be committed to upholding an internationally accepted standard of law, okay, which was originally the case after World War II. That, you know, stuff that America's been doing and that Britain's been doing, that Saudi Arabia's been doing, they're all war crimes, that Israel's been doing. It's all war crimes against international law. And who's been around to enforce international law? Well, apparently it was going to be America that was going to be the main figure, wasn't it? Enforcing international law. What have they done? Breaking the law themselves. So it is a free-for-all. And now we've got these corporateers, these rich men, coming saying, oh, this has got to happen, that's got to happen. Look, we're going to have this exercise about a pandemic. Oh, a few months later, we're all actually living the reality of the exercise. And they're giving themselves all of the powers to deny our human rights, even to deny people dentistry in Britain. And why? Why has this government given 104 million? You know, America gave 30 million. This country has given 104 million. This country gave even more money to the World Health Organization than the United Nations. Double what everybody else has given. Why? Why is this government giving so much money to the World Health Organization and denying healthcare to British people, denying dentistry, fraudulently falsifying death figures to claim that, oh look, 60,000 people have died of COVID-19. Absolute lie. Absolute lie. And it is about time people stood up. You know, people sending the children to school to stand in circles in the yard. I tell you now, if my son's grown up, right, but if he was a kid now, I tell you, there's no way that he would be going to school. Not because I'm scared of him catching a virus, but because I would not be subjecting him to that level of psychological and emotional damage and conditioning. And it is a crime. It is a crime against those children to subject them to that over such a minimal risk. The amount of psychological and emotional damage being inflicted across our society right now. People driven to suicide, people in depression, people left literally destitute, worried sick about what they're going to do when this lockdown finally ends. Oh, and then they can be evicted from the homes that they can no longer afford to pay for. No. No, 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 no. We have to stand up for our rights. And if you're not going to do it, then Britain, shame on you. You know, I will be applying to everywhere I can to leave this country as a political refugee, okay? Because I just cannot. I can't live with such levels of disgusting gullibility. I just can't, okay? I can't have respect for a people who will show such respect to the BBC and believe every single word that comes out of their mouths and not do their own research when you've got the access. You've got your phones, you've got access to the internet, the vast majority of you. You've got an ability to tell people what is going on, to share the information. You've got an ability to write to the BBC to complain about the lies, which I have done repeatedly. And so many like me. And we're sick of it. We're sick of it. We're sick of sense and sanity being battered between these two allegedly opposing narratives that actually are serving one agenda because they're two hands of one body, and it's an evil body and it's a monster and it has no right dictating. We need now to end all the debt, okay? The debt is being cancelled. We owe you fucking nothing, World Bank. Nothing whatsoever. Africa owes you nothing. You owe us everything. We want the Pacific Ocean cleaned up of the filth at Fukushima. We want our planet cleaned up. You, Queen Elizabeth, your corporate crown, you're going to empty out your offshore tax haven bank accounts and you're going to spend on repairing all the damage that your corporations have inflicted on our planet and are now blaming on humanity and giving yourselves the right to kill millions of us off. How dare you? None of you are God and none of you have a right to even suggest that there's too many people. Jar ask us to go forth and multiply. And we shall never overpopulate this planet when women have rights, when children have rights, when people have a living wage, when the law stands. Because yes, people like me, in our righteous anger and passion, okay, yes, we are like a lion, okay, but we are a lion that will lie down with a lamb, okay. We are a lion who will defend the lamb, because that is a warrior, okay, and that's what we are fighting right now. Spiritual warfare, spiritual wickedness in high and low places. So I will leave you people links with everything that to validate and confirm everything that I have stated in this video. Tune in, turn off the BBC, throw the Guardian in the gutter where it belongs. Listen to people like Vernon Coleman, people like Dr Buttar and the many doctors and professional people that I will be sharing under this video. Tell this world and its crap to go away, okay? And stop kneeling. Like I say, you got nothing to kneel for and everything to stand up for. And how dare they have the whole world on the strength of the horror that has been happening to people in America, black people in America, the how long, and even white people, that police brutality that's been going on in America, the how long, and they're getting everybody kneeling. Stand up for your rights, people.